cute little champions, I welcome you all to score 99% in 99 days. Today is day 6 and today we are continuing with the topic that is life processes. Not look at me, I look scary. So anyways, yesterday we spoke about nutrition in plants and today we are going to complete the nutrition in heterotrophs, my dear children. Let's see what is the topic flow for the day. So life processes has one process, that is nutrition, which we have completed partially because we spoke about autotrophic mode of nutrition and nutrition of in plants in the previous session. So we can write completed. So any questions from this topic? I hope that you are 100% sure you would be able to do that. So big kudos to us. Next thing, the thing that we are going to study today is heterotrophic mode of nutrition, my dear children, where we'll be talking about nutrition in amoeba and paramecium and nutrition in human beings and little more things that I said is a secret. We'll be talking about that later when I go ahead with the topic. Okay, now what do you exactly mean by heterotrophic mode of nutrition? What did we mean by autotrophic mode of nutrition? Let's recollect. So autotrophs were those organisms who were able to prepare their own food. So ma'am, my mother, father, or basically whoever helps me to have food, basically who all make food in my home, they are all autotrophs? No children, autotrophs are those organisms who can make food with the help of simple inorganic substances. For example, what do you call inorganic substances as? Can you give some examples? CO2, H2, they're all inorganic. And now those are the organisms which can convert these inorganic substances into something organic like glucose. So they are known as autotrophs. We human beings, if we think that, okay, one day I'll stand under the sun, because obviously autotrophs, they also need light or chemical energy, right? So if I try to enact like them, like a plant, and think that sunlight will fall on me, I'll be able to convert all the carbon dioxide into glucose. My body would not be allowing me to do so because I am a totally different organism. So obviously I cannot come into this particular category. It's just autotrophs who come here. Whereas we are heterotrophs children, we are kind of lazy little lads who basically depend on them for food. So basically we are the people who depend on other organisms for food because we cannot synthesize our own food. So either we depend on a plant, children, or probably we depend on some other organism which eats plant. I know it does not have any resemblance to anything that you have in your food, but yes. So either you depend on this organism or probably you directly eat a plant for food, but you are not the people who are going to make the food. The food that you make is something that you got from both these resources. So at the end, if you see the starting point, it has to be this only. So you are totally dependent on other organisms for food, my dear children, which is why I say that you are a heterotroph, I am a heterotroph, everyone else around us are heterotrophs. Now heterotrophs also have different types and we are going to study about that right now. Types of heterotrophic nutrition. One, as you see, is parasitic. Okay. The other one, as you see, is saprophytic. The third one is holozoic. I am going to teach about each of them separately. Okay. So parasitic means they are going to derive nutrition from other living organisms. Anyway, heterotrophs are those organisms. Where is the pen? Heterotrophs are those organisms that depends on other organisms for food. Now over here, when I say that an organism is parasite, it is basically depending on other living organism for food. Now this particular living organism, I call it as a host. For example, just imagine I have tapeworm in my body. The tapeworm is parasite. Okay, I am the host. In my body, it is residing and taking in all the nutrition. So it is showing parasitic mode of nutrition. This is a heterotrophic mode of nutrition since the tapeworm is depending on some other organism, that is me, for what children, for food and nutrition. Got it? So that is the first mode that we have. So in parasites also we have different types. One is ectoparasite that lives outside our body. For example, leech. You know leech, when you go to some forest areas and things like that, leeches are there stuck on our legs and arms and stuff like that. Okay, we have to pull them out. They take our blood and everything. Okay, so leech is an ectoparasite. It does not get inside our body, it just stays outside, takes the blood. Ticks that you see in dogs, on dogs, right? Lice which you see in human beings, flea, all these things, they are ectoparasites. Ecto as in basically in the external surface. They are found in the external or on the external surface. You cannot call mosquito as a parasite. it is kind of a debatable topic, so we are not going into that. But as of now, what is given in your NCERT, let's just stick on to that. Okay, now endoparasites, endo as in it is inside, it enters our body and it is inside, my dear children. Example, you have tapeworm, you have roundworm, everything, all the things that you see over here, it resides inside our body and take all the nutrition from there. So these are the examples of ectoparasites. Now when you talk about parasites, there is one more very important thing. Have you heard about plant parasite? So this is all about human beings, animals and stuff like that. But what about plants? Do they also have parasites, my dear children? Yes, they definitely have a parasite, and this parasite is kind of very famous. It is known as Cuscuta. It is not at all cute, okay? You can remember like that, Cuscuta, okay? What does Cuscuta do? It is yellow in color. It does not have the chlorophyll pigments, so it cannot make the food. You know, the plants, the autotrophs, they were needing chlorophyll pigments for absorption of light energy. These guys, they are yellow in color, they do not have much amount of chlorophyll, so they cannot prepare their own food. So they say, why to prepare our own food when our plant, another plant is there? So what do they do is, for example, suppose this is a plant, they'll go round and round around it, okay? And slowly get into their system also. So for example, I make an enlarged image over here. This is the stem of the plant that I am looking forward for, and this is the Cuscuta that is coming roping around it. This Cuscuta slowly has some protrusions coming from its body, okay, has some protrusions coming from its body which has contact with the xylem and the phloem. I'll zoom it and show to you, okay? I'll zoom this and I'll show to you. So basically it goes in. Okay, now it's time to zoom. Over here, this was the Cuscuta. The Cuscuta had some projections which went inside the xylem. Xylem was transporting water and phloem was transporting food of the plant. This is the system of the plant. But now it is entering and taking all the important nutrients from there. Again, isn't it parasitic? Because it is residing in a living host, right? It is basically a host. This particular plant that you see, it is the host for this particular organism, right? So this is a parasitic association, and these finger-like projections that you see that comes out from the Cuscuta, it is known as hostoria. What do you call it? Hostoria. So it is like a horror story. You can remember like that, okay? What do you call it? Hostoria, my dear children. Works? Okay, now I wanted to tell one more thing. Yes, Cuscuta has a different name as well. It is also known as Amoeba in Hindi. Okay, it is also known as Amoeba. I hope parasitic mode of nutrition is done. Now next type is saprophytic mode of nutrition, and you call these organisms who show this type of nutrition as saprotrophs. Now what is different between them and us? Okay, do you know that we also come in this category, that is heterotrophic mode of nutrition, and we obviously are not parasitic. So in this category we are not there. What about this category? Are we in there? No, we are not in there also. I'll tell you why. Because these are organisms who basically show external digestion. What do they show, children? External digestion. What do you mean by that? Basically, usually how I have food, I'll tell you. I take food, I put it in my mouth, inside my body the food gets broken down. I am not aware about what is happening inside my body. I cannot see it also, okay? Everything is happening inside my body, so I call this as internal digestion. Okay, I will call this as internal digestion. But over here, in the case of saprotrophs, they kind of release certain enzymes outside, my dear children. So they are going to release certain enzymes outside whenever there is food particle near them. Example, as you can see over here, the cute little mushroom. Okay, so suppose this is a mushroom, this is a dead organism that you have. Okay, mushroom sees this and mushroom thinks that, I have got my dinner, I have to eat it. So what does mushroom do? It does not have hands or teeth to digest things. So basically it releases certain enzymes. Okay, it will release certain enzymes, and these enzymes which would be released will be breaking down this particular dead organism that you see into smaller particles, okay, and whatever important nutrients are there, that is reabsorbed. That is what uptaken by the mushroom itself. Everything, if you see the digestion means breaking down of food into smaller particles, right, into absorbable format. So that is happening outside. This is known as external digestion, my dear children. So the example for saprotroph is mushroom, and mushroom comes in which category, my dear children? They come under a category of fungi. They come under a category of what? Fungi. So what all examples do you need to remember? In the case of Heterotrophs that is given in your book, you should be remembering bread mold. What is bread mold, my dear children? If you keep the bread for so long, on the stale bread, what will happen? You will see fungus starts to grow. What is this fungus? This is known as rhizopus or bread mold, my dear children. So they are also doing the same thing. They are going to release enzymes, break down the bread, and they can take in the important nutrients. Okay, so bread mold or rhizopus and the mushroom that you saw over here, and there are some bacteria as well. There are some bacteria as well. Okay, was cool? So sometimes they are also known as decomposers. Okay, they are also known as decomposers because they break down things and the important nutrients they took in. Other things which are broken down can be utilized by some other organisms as well. So since they are breaking down things, that is dead and decaying things, you call them as decomposers as well. So you can remember one thing, in Heterotrophs comes F and B, phase book, that is fungi and some bacteria. I am saying some bacteria, not all bacteria. So as of now, you know there are some bacteria that performs autotrophism also. That is photoautotropism also, you know, cyanobacteria. Okay, there were some bacteria that were doing chemoautotropism, that is nitrobacter, nitrosomonas. They were doing chemoautotropism. They are using chemical energy to prepare their own food. Okay, everything was happening. Now you're talking about heterotrophic nutrition. In them also you have certain bacteria which depend on other organisms for food. Majority of the bacteria, they are heterotrophic only. Only some are autotrophic, about which we discussed in the previous session. Now if you are someone who is feeling that what is ma'am saying, please go watch that video. It's easy for you to understand that. Yeah, so saprophytes are the one that derives nutrition from the dead and the decaying matter. Works? They are the one that derive nutrition from other living organism. Works? Now going ahead, what do we have? Holozoic. So we come under this category, my dear children. Okay, so organism ingests the organic food material and break the food inside the body. They are the ones that take in the food. For example, I have a burger, I eat it, the burger gets broken down inside my body. This is what I mean by internal digestion, my dear children. So we humans come in this particular category. I'm telling you, you have to remember the examples of all the modes that I have taught you until now. That is parasitic, holozoic, saprophytic, all of them. So in this comes human beings, in this come other organisms, for example carnivores, omnivores, lions, tigers, cheetah, everything comes under this particular category. May it be vegetarian, may it be non-vegetarian. Rabbits, okay, they are also dependent on other organisms and they are taking food inside and getting things broken down inside their body. So they are all holozoic, they all show holozoic mode of nutrition. Works? Now I have a few examples for parasitic mode of nutrition as far as I remember. Yes, this is the tapeworm that I was talking about. Is it an ectoparasite or endoparasite? Tell me in the comment section. Tell me in the comment section. Is it an ecto or an endoparasite? Next thing, I have leech. Again, ecto or endo. I have cuscuta, the yellow thing that I see over here. This is known as cuscuta. Cuscuta has another name which is known as amoeba. It has hostoria. Okay, remember the term hostoria. And then, yeah, this is the hostoria that it has. I told you, right? Finger-like projections that goes inside the plant's body. Now, okay, so that's all. So that's all about the different types of heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Now we are going to talk about the nutrition in amoeba and paramecium, which is going to be really, really interesting. But before getting into that, the task for you is to tell me which type of heterotrophic mode of nutrition do they show. Which type of heterotrophic nutrition do they show at the end? Okay, at the end when I teach you everything, you tell me. So I have the amoeba over here. The amoeba has an organelle. It has all the organelles. It's a eukaryote. It's a single cellular eukaryotic organism. Okay, they are known as, they come under this category of protista. They come under this kingdom that is known as protista, and they are also known as protozoans. So please, if the question comes, explain the nutrition in protozoans, not be confused, they are asking about this only. Okay, now this is amoeba. Amoeba has all the eukaryotic organelles. It has lysosome also. Lysosome is the one that has all the enzymes, digestive enzymes, okay, that can kill the cell, that can break the food material, do anything it wants. Okay, and here it is having the nucleus. Now here there is the food. So what will the amoeba do? The first thing is ingestion. It has to take in the food. So the process of taking in the food with the help of something that is known as pseudopodia, my dear children, is known as ingestion. What is pseudopodia? Pseudopodia, pseudo word means false and podia means feet. So with the help of false feet, it takes in the food that you see over here. Now when it takes in that thing, it is going inside a vacuole. And what are you going to call this vacuole as? You're going to call this vacuole as food vacuole, my dear children. So after ingestion, what will happen? In ingestion, you took it inside the food vacuole with the help of pseudopodia. Now the next step is digestion. The food has to get broken down. And where are the enzymes which would be breaking down the food? It is there in the lysosome. So basically this lysosome which is there, it will come attach over here. Okay, it will come attach over here, basically fuse with the food vacuole and give out all the enzymes. Give out all the enzymes over here in the food vacuole. Now what will happen? Inside the food vacuole, if I show you a picture, the food will be getting broken down. The food gets broken down. This is known as digestion. So the process of fusion of lysosome with the food vacuole for the breakdown of food is known as digestion. Okay, so basically you can just write that after the fusion of lysosome with the food vacuole, the food is getting broken down in the food vacuole. That is known as digestion. Now we have the digested food over here inside the food vacuole. What will happen to that? So the first step, ingestion, is clear. You have to write the steps with the terms ingestion, underline and then explain. Okay, digestion, underline and then explain. Next step after digestion is absorption. What do you mean by absorption? Basically, I took in the food because I want the food, I want the important nutrients, right? So this time, whatever broken down food is there, I am going to take out the important nutrients. This is known as absorption. So the diffusion of nutrients from the food vacuole to the cytoplasm. They do not have arms, legs and everything around, big organs, nothing. They just have the cytoplasm. So basically, diffusion of this food into the cytoplasm, it is known as absorption. Cool. Now the next step is known as assimilation. What do you mean by assimilation? The process of utilization of nutrients for various metabolic activities. So the next step is basically what I'm going to do is the absorbed nutrients that I have, I am going to use it whenever this particular organism is going to use this absorbed nutrients for something. For something in their body, this is known as assimilation. So all these nutrients, when they are doing some function, they are helping in some function, or when they are used for some activities in the body, you call this process as assimilation. Now that is also a process of digestion. Okay, I'm sorry, nutrition. So you have to remember it. So this is the third step after digestion. This is the fourth step. Underline this and write. If you're missing any step, you're losing marks, my dear children. I hope you have seen the video of marking scheme if they have put it already. Okay, it's very, very important. Now, after assimilation, okay, after the things are getting, nutrients are absorbed, what happens, children? Whatever extra stuff is there, which is not needed by their body, they poop it outside. So they don't have a proper mechanism to poop. So basically what happens, children? This particular food vacuole goes and fuses with the membrane and releases all the things outside, and this is known as egestion, which is the fifth step. So how many steps do we have in total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ingestion. Okay, taking in food with the help of pseudopodia. Digestion, where the lysosome goes, fuses with the food vacuole, breaks the food down. Okay. Third thing, absorption, where the absorbed nutrients are taken into the cytoplasm. Fourth one, assimilation, where all these important nutrients are utilized for metabolic activities. Okay. And now the fifth one, where all the unwanted stuff is removed from the body. This is known as egestion. Now this is what, children, these are the steps of nutrition in the case of amoeba. And now I had asked you a question, what is the type of heterotrophic nutrition over here? Do they show parasitic? Do they show, are they getting inside someone's body? No. Are they getting on someone's body and taking nutrients from them? No. Okay, they are taking food internally, they are digesting it internally. So they are going to show a mode of nutrition which is similar to us, and it is known as holozoic nutrition. So they also, my dear children, along with the rabbits, along with human beings, they also show holozoic mode of nutrition. Works? Now the next thing that we have is, where is that guy? Paramecium. It is also known as slipper like animal. Okay, why do you call it? Why do you call it like that? Basically, if you see, it's not animal. It's not an animal. Okay, let me tell you, it's not an animal. It comes under protist. So basically, it looks like a slipper, right? So over here, how does the food and everything gets inside? It's kind of similar to that, but they have a bit more organized way of having food. So in the case of amoeba, they do not have a specific location for the pseudopodia to come outside. Anywhere it can just move in and take the food inside. But over here they have a specific location, and what do you call this as? You call this as oral groove. So you see this space, this is known as oral groove, okay? And there is an opening over here at the end which you call as cytostome, or you call it cell mouth. This is a whole cell, and cell has a mouth which is known as cytostome. Now whenever food particle gets inside, it gets inside something that is known as food vacuole, which is being formed at the end of the cytostome. Now whenever they have to remove the unwanted things, they have another opening for that which is known as cytoproct, which is known as the anal pore. Okay, which is known as anal pore. So here everything is specific. The location of entry, the location of exit is kind of specific, my dear children. Okay, so how do they take in the food? Suppose food is over here. So with the help of cilia, they roll over the food. Okay, with the help of cilia, these things that you see over here, these are cilia, and with the help of cilia, they roll over the food and bring it over here. When they bring it over here, they take it inside the food vacuole. Now they also will be having a lysosome. Lysosome will be going and fusing. Okay, lysosome will be going and fusing, releasing out all the enzymes, all the important nutrients will be absorbed. These absorbed nutrients will be utilized using assimilation, and later on whatever unimportant things are there, that is removed outside with the help of the cytoproct. Okay, here also they have ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and egestion. What type of heterotrophic mode of nutrition are they showing, children? Again, they are also showing holozoic. They are also showing holozoic mode of nutrition. Works? Cool? Okay. Now, so that is also clear. Okay. So you should be knowing how to draw the diagram of amoeba. Just go through it once more. Okay, it's very easy. It does not have a specific shape, right? So you should be knowing about the digestion of amoeba. If they're asking for the diagrams, please draw it. Okay. Now we are going to start off with human beings, my dear children. It's very interesting now. So human beings, the whole thing that is involved in the process of nutrition, okay, I say that it is the gastrointestinal tract or the GI tract or alimentary canal. It starts from your mouth, goes up until your anus. Okay, so that is what GI tract or alimentary canal or gastrointestinal tract. What all does it consist, children? This is your mouth. Okay, I'll tell you one very important thing here itself. So we do not have much time there. Okay, so I have to speed up over here. Over here, this is the nose. This is your nasal cavity, from where your, what do you call it, air and everything comes in. Okay, you know this is the area where your food travels through. Now there is a junction being formed over here. Okay, there is a junction being formed over here, which is this, where the nasal cavity and the buccal cavity. Buccal cavity is where inside our mouth. Okay, the cavity that is formed inside our mouth. So buccal cavity and nasal cavity, they join at one particular area. Okay, they have a common junction which you call as pharynx. What do you call this as? Pharynx, my dear children. The pharynx later on, okay, it moves down. It has two chambers. Again, it can be divided into two chambers. One is the food chamber that you see over here, which is known as esophagus. What do you call it? Esophagus. The other one, which I have not made up over here, this is known as the windpipe. So here it travels and goes to the lungs. So which is why we say whenever we have food, okay, whenever we have food, we say we should not be talking much. Why, children? Because usually there is a guide to cover this windpipe. To cover this windpipe over here. And what do you call that thing as? You call this as epiglottis. Epiglottis. What is epiglottis, my dear children? It's a flap-like tissue which kind of closes when the food passes down, so that nothing gets inside the windpipe. In the windpipe, if the food goes, we will be choking. Things like that will be happening. So we do not want that to happen. So the epiglottis usually closes up. But when we are talking blah 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 blah, we need air also, we breathe also, we talk also. At that point of time, the epiglottis might not be able to coordinate things, and sometimes it might remain open, and that is why the food gets inside. So which is why we say we should not be talking very much while having food. Okay, got it. Okay, so the pharynx is kind of a junction between the nasal cavity, between the buccal cavity, between your esophagus and between your windpipe. So that is the junction, that the common junction that we are having. Okay, now going ahead talking about your food thingy. So from the mouth, it enters the buccal cavity. From the buccal cavity, it reaches the pharynx. From the pharynx, it reaches the esophagus, as you can see over here. From the esophagus, the food will be going to the stomach. From the stomach, it will be going to the to the small intestine first. This is the small intestine. The first part of the small intestine is known as duodenum, about which we will be learning. After that you have jejunum, after that you have ileum. So after passing through the small intestine, food will be getting into the large intestine, and from the large intestine food will be directly passing out from our body. Okay, now you saw there are two different organs which I have mentioned over here. Okay, which is what? Liver and pancreas. I call them as digestive glands. So along with the alimentary canal that I have in overall, I also have two very important digestive glands, my dear children, which is the liver and pancreas, because they are going to give out their secretions. Okay, they are going to give out their secretions, which is also very much important to me, along with these particular guys that are being mentioned over here. Okay, so we are going to study about all of them now. Let's begin the battle. So starting from our mouth, please remember the digestion starts in our mouth. Why do I say so? Why do I say that digestion starts in our mouth? Because basically, you know that we have salivary glands. I hope you know that. We have three sets of salivary glands, three pairs of salivary glands. One is over here, one is under the buccal, okay, thingy. Okay, you have three glands. I'm not telling exactly where and all, because you might get confused. I don't want that. So yes, parotid, this, that. Anyways, the mouth basically has salivary glands which releases saliva, and the saliva has three very important things that you should be remembering. One is bicarbonate ions. Okay. One is the bicarbonate ions that we are having. Second is lysozyme, which is an enzyme, and the third one is salivary amylase, which is again an enzyme. So bicarbonate ions, what do? They provide a neutral medium. Whatever acidic things that we are having, basically we want to neutrify it. Okay, we want to make it alkaline, we want to make it neutral. Okay, we do not want it to be acidic. Okay, we want it to be neutral. For that, what are we going to do? We are going to mix the food with the bicarbonate ions. Okay, that is one thing. Now there is one more use of bicarbonate ions. I am coming to that. Second thing is lysozyme. You know, we put, sometimes the parents say, whenever you have some bumpy thingy on your face and all, you should be putting your saliva. Why? Because it has lysozyme, and lysozyme, it kills all the pathogens mostly. So lysozyme is an enzyme that kills the pathogens, the small bacteria that you have and everything. Now we have the most important guy, that is salivary amylase, my dear children. You also call it ptyalin. You do not have to remember this. This is for your NTSC boards, sorry, NTSC Olympiad stuff and things like that. So salivary amylase, what it does is that the food that is starchy, okay, the food that has starch in it, it will be breaking down the starch into a lesser, what's a simpler form of it, which is known as maltose, So starch, it is a complex carbohydrate. I hope everyone knows that starch is what, children? A carbohydrate. In plant's body, the glucose is stored in the form of starch, remember? So this complex starch that you have is broken down with the help of this enzyme, that is salivary amylase, into maltose, which is the simpler form of it. Now this needs a pH of 6.8, which is near neutral. You know, 1 to 7 it is known as acidic, 7 to 14 it is known as basic, 7 is the neutral point. 7 is the neutral point. So we want a neutral thing for this particular enzyme to act, and who provides the neutral thing? This is the bicarbonate ions. So I hope you understood the thing now that I was trying to say. So mouth is a very important thing, because the digestion starts in the mouth itself, because the mouth has salivary glands which releases saliva. Now saliva has three very important components. One is bicarbonate ions, which is going to provide the neutral medium. Second is lysozyme, which is going to kill all the pathogens. Third is salivary amylase, which is the most important thing over here, because salivary amylase, whenever the term amylase comes, just understand it is going to break down carbohydrate. So your carbohydrate which is there, it is getting broken down to simpler form, which is known as maltose, my dear children. So this was complex, this is simpler form. So if the question comes, what is a complex form on which the salivary amylase acts, children? It is the starch. What is a simpler thing that is being formed at the end of it? It is maltose. Who provides this pH, children? Bicarbonate ions. Works? Okay, so that is done. Now one more very important thing, this is known as buccal cavity. I hope you know that. We have teeth also. This teeth is very much important for chewing, for biting, things like that. We have thecodont, diphyodont, heterodont dentation. I hope you do not have to study as of now, but I can just give you an overview. Okay, thecodont is when you have the jaw, and inside jaw you have sockets like this where your teeth can reside. So basically your teeth is embedded inside the jaw, which is why it is known as thecodont dentition. Now it is known as diphyodont dentition. Why, children? Because you have two sets of teeth. One is the milk teeth that you have when you are kids, and then you have a permanent set of teeth, does not go off even if you want to. Okay. Now there is heterodont dentition. Why, children? Because we have different types of teeth. We have canines, we have molar, we have premolars, all of these things, which is why it is known as heterodont. So this is about your mouth. That is completed. Okay. Now can we move ahead with esophagus? Yes. Remember, there is epiglottis. There is epiglottis that safeguards your windpipe from anything. It covers your windpipe. This is a flap of tissue that covers everything. Works. So digestion starts here in the mouth because of this particular enzyme that you saw. Okay. And let me tell you, the starch has not, all the starch that is there has not converted into maltose. Still there is still things being left. So you will again see that starch is getting broken down to maltose later on also. And one very important thing before I go ahead about DSAT, if you are interested, guys, please move into the link that is given in the description and you will be getting access to it. Yeah. Basically, what I want to do with the whole digestion inside my body, I want to break down certain things down. Okay, I want to break down certain things which are, for example, I want to break down carbs, or basically carbohydrates, to simple sugars like what? Glucose. So initially I might be having them in the form of maltose, galactose, whatever. I want to break it down at the end into what? Glucose. That is my ultimate aim. Now in the case of proteins, when proteins are broken down, initially they form something that is known as peptides. These peptides will also later get broken down to what? Amino acids, my dear children. So my ultimate aim is to break down all the proteins into amino acids. Okay, so because amino acids are the one that make up proteins. Amino acids come together, they make proteins. So when I am breaking down proteins, I'll get this at the end. Okay, now I have lipids, or basically fat. So basically what do I get over here? I might get fatty acids and glycerol. Okay, I might get diglycerides, triglycerides, things like that. But at the end, what do I need, children? I need fatty acids plus glycerol separately. So this is my ultimate aim. This is why I do digestion. And most of this, at the end, I'll get all this thing mostly in the small intestine. The final stage of digestion happens in the small intestine. It will be starting from the mouth. It will be starting, where, children? It will be starting from the mouth, where the carbohydrates are the only things that is getting broken down. Rest all the things that will be happening in the stomach and things like that. But ultimately you will get these things. Okay, that is what I meant to say. Now if you want to take a screenshot of this, you can take a screenshot. I'll be moving aside because you might not get this particular sheet later on. Works? Okay, cool. Now talking about wait. Esophagus we didn't discuss, right? Yeah. So the next thing that we have is the food pipe. The food pipe is also known as esophagus, my dear children. Okay, it is also known as esophagus. And how does the food roll down throughout our esophagus? There is something that is known as peristalsis. Okay, what do you call it? Peristalsis. It is involuntary movement. It is not in our control. For example, tomorrow I decide, Jasmine, please do not do peristalsis in your what's say esophagus. It does not happen like that. It won't be stopping because it is involuntary. Okay, so there is involuntary contraction and relaxation of your food pipe, which is why whenever it contracts and relaxes, the food is basically able to move down. And this peristalsis happens throughout our alimentary canal. Please remember that also. Okay, so the next stop after your mouth is esophagus. So finally the food has been moving down towards what, children? Towards the stomach. Let's go to the stomach now. So over here we have the stomach. Okay, now what happens in the stomach? Imagine this is stomach and I am standing inside the stomach. This is Jasmine Ma'am standing inside the stomach. And Jasmine Ma'am is saying, oh, there are so many pits. So these are the pits that you see, my dear children. I have enlarged one pit. Okay, in this pit, okay, I call this pit as gastric pit. So inside the stomach, you have so many pits which are known as gastric pits, which you cannot see. They are not like big pits. Okay, they are small pits. Now over here, they have even smaller cells. There are different type of cells about which you have to remember. The first type of cell that you are having is oxyntic cell or parietal cell. You call it oxyntic or you call it parietal. Okay, You call it oxyntic or you call it parietal. What do they release? That is important. So ox is kind of dangerous, so you can remember they are going to release something really dangerous, that is hydrochloric acid, HCl. And what does HCl do, children? They kill the germs, they provide acidic pH for activation of certain enzymes. So you know, in acidic pH obviously the germs won't be able to survive, so killing germs is a must do thing. Second thing that it does is very much important. It is providing acidic pH. There bicarbonate ions were providing basic or neutral pH to which guy? Salivary amylase. Over here there are certain enzymes which needs acidic pH. So for that HCl is being released. Now you only think if HCl is being released inside our stomach, it can damage the inner lining of the stomach. Now that is a problem. So what can we do regarding that? What can we do regarding that? Basically then we will be having another sets of cells over here. Okay, that is known as goblet cells. What do you call them? You call them goblet cells. And goblet cells, what do they do, children? They release something which is known as mucus. Okay, they will be releasing mucus. This mucus is going to provide a layer inside my stomach which will be protecting my stomach from the effect of the acid. I just need acid for killing the germs and also for providing the pH. Apart from that, I do not need hydrochloric acid. So basically I have to protect my stomach also. For that I need mucus, my dear children. Done? So HCl is done, mucus is done. Now comes the guy who needs this particular acidic pH. Who are those children? They are the chief cells. Okay, they are not the chief cells, but chief cells are the one that is going to release the enzyme that is going to need the acidic pH. So the first enzyme which is there, it is known as pepsinogen. What is it, children? Pepsinogen. But the sad fact about pepsinogen is it is kind of inactive. Okay, whenever no gen term comes, just understand that they are inactive. So pepsinogen is kind of inactive. It will become only active when there is an acidic pH. So acidic pH is provided by the HCl. Everything is cool. Now this inactive enzyme will turn or convert into something active which is known as pepsin, my dear children. So pepsin is active. Pepsinogen is inactive version. It got the acidic pH, that is 1.8 pH, kind of very acidic, and it has now converted into pepsin, which is the active form of the enzyme. Now what does the pepsin do? Pepsin, this guy pepsin, as you can understand, pepsin, peptide, proteins. So basically they are going to act on proteins. They are going to act on proteins and break them into peptides. The next step is what? Breaking them into amino acids. That will be done later on. As of now, let's do the initial thing. Okay, let's make it easy for the small intestine. Let's break down proteins to peptides. That is done by the pepsin. Can this guy do this? It's inactive. It has to turn active in the presence of HCl, that is acidic. Not in the presence of HCl. HCl just provides the acidic medium. Okay, and then now the pepsin is going to act on the proteins and break them into peptides. Now this is the first breakdown of protein. The first breakdown of carbohydrate happened where, children? In the mouth. The first breakdown of the proteins happened where, children? In the stomach. Works? Works. So stomach basically has gastric pit. Gastric pit has three types of cell. Oxyntic cell that releases HCl, that kills the germs and also provides an acidic pH. Second thing is goblet cell. Goblet cell basically releases mucus. Mucus protects our entire stomach lining from the harmful effect of HCl. And the third thing that we have is the chief cell. The chief cell, it releases the chief and the most important thing, that is pepsinogen, the enzyme. But this enzyme is sadly inactive. To make it active, it needs an acidic pH which is provided by the HCl. Now it turns into an active enzyme which is known as pepsin. Pepsin will be acting on proteins. Protein will be broken down to peptides. Works? This is the first breakdown of protein that happens in the stomach. Okay, going ahead. The stomach is done. Okay, so stomach is over here and the food that is being broken down is going to the next part. What is this next part, children? This is the, where shall I write it? This is the duodenum. This is the first part of the small intestine. This is the first part of the small intestine. Before that, I want to tell you one thing. So you might have noticed that sometimes the food comes back in the form of vomiting and stuff like that. That happens because there is a guard over here that does not work properly. So over here there is a sphincter muscle, my dear children. There is a sphincter muscle which has to close off, okay, but usually it is not getting closed off, which is why the food goes back. Over here also there is a sphincter muscle, okay, in between small intestine and this, in between esophagus and the stomach, you have sphincter muscle also. Works? Chalo. Now let's talk about the pancreas guy and the liver guy. Both of them, they are the digestive glands, I told you. What do they exactly do? So I'll talk about liver first. Okay, liver releases something which is known as bile juice, my dear children. Bile juice is kind of yellowish fluid things, okay, and bile juice basically consists of bile salts and bile pigments. You have to remember it. Bile juice which is there, it consists of bile salt and bile pigments. Fine. Bile pigments are bilirubin, biliverdin. Okay, in jaundice and all, some people have too much amount of bilirubin and biliverdin, which is why they turn yellow in color. Okay, how do you get bilirubin and biliverdin? It usually is produced inside our body. Okay, it is usually produced inside our body. Whenever the hemoglobin breaks down, at that point itself you will be in your body, this is being produced and this is being moved out in the urine, which is why urine is yellow in color. Okay, so normally it happens, but sometimes it just accumulates there and causes the whole trouble. Okay, so now over here, the bile juice which I am saying, which is produced by the liver, it is actually produced by the liver, but you have to remember that it is stored somewhere else. It is produced by the liver, but it is stored somewhere else, and that somewhere else is gallbladder. So gallbladder is a small guy that is residing near the liver. This is where all your bile juice is stored, my dear children. Okay, now the next thing that you have is the function. What is the function of the bile salt? Why are we talking about this thing? First thing, so it makes the food alkaline. Remember, the food that is coming from here, it is acidic because HCl was there. So I want to make food alkaline now. What is this, ma'am? First you had made it neutral, then almost neutral, then you were converting into acidic. Now we are again converting into alkaline thingy. Why? Because basically I need alkaline pH for the next set of enzymes to act. And who are the next set of enzymes? Those are the pancreatic enzymes. And how pancreas is here, ma'am? How can they produce things in the duodenum? Basically, they have something like this, some association like this, through which the enzymes can come and act. So basically, I am going to make food alkaline so that it becomes easy for them to act. Now, second thing that the bile juice does, and it is very much important, is that it does emulsification of fat. What do you mean by emulsification of fat, my dear children? So, you have bigger fat globules, you are breaking them down to smaller fat globules. This is known as emulsification. What is the use of this, ma'am? Basically, if this is bigger fat globules, the enzymes have to act on it. It won't be very much efficient. Okay, you do not have much surface area. But now, if when you are breaking them down, from all the angles it can act on it, is being produced from these guys itself, that is the pancreas itself. So basically I am making things very easy for the pancreas. First thing I am making the food alkaline. Second thing, I am helping in the emulsification of fat. So I am breaking down larger fat globules to smaller fat globules so that these enzymes could act rightly. Now if bile salt is not there, this function would not be happening properly. If this is not happening properly, the pancreas won't be able to work really good, okay, and our food might not be getting broken down properly. So this all things are associated, my dear children. So remember, liver is for bile juice. Bile juice is stored in the case of in the gallbladder, but when it is used, basically it is being secreted, and the bile juice consists of bile salt and bile pigments. It is used for making the food alkaline so that the pancreatic enzymes could act. It is used for emulsification of fats. Okay, emulsification of fats, that is breakdown of larger fat globules to smaller fat globules. So until now we spoke about carbohydrate, then we spoke about proteins, now we are talking about fats. Okay, the pancreas are going to secrete their enzymes as well. Now, let's see what all enzymes are there. The first enzyme that we have is pancreatic lipase, my dear children. So, whenever lipase term comes, just understand it is going to act on fat. So, this is the pancreatic lipase that needed smaller fat globules. So, over here, the emulsified fat globules which are being done by them is broken down to fatty acid and glycerol. Okay, not entirely fatty acid and glycerol, I will say. The final digestion happens in the small intestine. But yes, diglycerides and glycerol, things like that happens. Okay, so I will say the fat is not entirely broken down until now. It will be entirely broken down in the small intestine only. You have to wait for some time. But at least this much happens over here. Some type of breakdown happens over here with the help of pancreatic lipase. Okay, so fat is broken down. Next thing, pancreatic amylase will be breaking down starch into maltose. So remember, we broke down starch into maltose there also with the help of salivary amylase. This is another guy, that is pancreatic amylase, which is going to do the rest of the job. It is going to break down the rest of the starch into maltose. So your carbohydrate is also broken down. Next thing, pancreatic trypsin, my dear children. Trypsin, pepsin, both of them, they are going to act on proteins. So whatever leftover proteins were there, they are also going to get broken down to peptides. Okay, all the pancreatic enzymes that you see over here, they need a basic pH, which is why the bile juice was making everything alkaline. Basic alkaline is the same thing. Okay, so what all is being secreted by your pancreas, my dear children? Pancreatic lipase, okay, which is going to break down fats, pancreatic amylase, which is going to break down starch into maltose, and pancreatic trypsin, which is going to break down proteins into peptides. Works? Now, pancreas, when I talk about that, I say it's a heterocrine gland. Why do I say it's a heterocrine gland? Because it releases enzymes. Okay, it releases enzymes, and those glands which releases enzymes, I call them exocrine gland. And also, pancreas are responsible for release of very important hormone. Can you tell me in the comment section again? I will give you an example. One is glucagon. The other one is what, my dear children? One is glucagon. The other one is what? You have to tell me. So this is a hormone releasing gland as well. So since they are doing both the function, they release enzymes, they release hormones, which is why it is known as heterocrine gland. Okay, these are the digestive glands that supports the things. So again, a breakdown of things happened over here as well in the duodenum. Now food is passing through the duodenum and going to the inside the small intestine totally. Okay, this is also a part of small intestine where all of this thing was happening. Remember, the food is not going inside the pancreas and it's not happening within the pancreas. The enzymes are released here in the duodenum and the food is getting broken down here itself. Please remember that. Okay. Now, going ahead, let's talk about the small intestine. The first part of the small intestine is the duodenum, second is jejunum, and the third one is ileum. And if I zoom in the small intestine, it looks like this. Okay, if I zoom in it a bit more, I'll find something like this. So I have waves like this, and on this waves another wavy thing is there. Okay, let's talk about that. So the green color wavy thing, okay, this orange thingy that you see over here, this is the innermost layer of our gastric system, okay, which is known as mucosa layer. What do you call this? You call this as mucosa layer. Okay, the innermost layer. On the mucosa layer, you have certain fingery things like this, which you call as villi, my dear children. What do you call them? You call them as villi. Now, I have not made the blue thing over here, but they also have some blue things over them. What is this? And actually, they are not blue, it's just for your understanding. Okay, so basically, they have certain cells like this. Where can I make it? I'll make it here. Suppose this is the blue thing that I made. Actually, this is a cell which has the nucleus and everything, and this is the finger-like projection of the cell. This finger-like projection of the cell, you call this as microvilli. And if you remember, in your 9th grade, you studied this type of tissue is known as columnar epithelial tissue. Okay, you have ciliated columnar epithelial tissue in the respiratory tract, you have this in your digestive tract. So this is there, this finger-like projection of a cell itself, it is known as microvilli. And where do this cell reside, children? On the top of your villi. On the top of your villi, you have so many small cells like this, which has small projections like this, that is known as microvilli. But ma'am, why are we doing all this thing? Because we want to increase the surface area of absorption. Over here, in the case of small intestine, the food is getting broken down finally, and absorption is also taking place, absorption of all the important nutrients. So you only think, if the space was like this, only this many amount of nutrients could pass through. But if I utilize the space like this, the nutrients, more amount of nutrients can be absorbed from all these things. So basically, I'm increasing the surface area. Okay, that is the use of your villi and your microvilli. So that more amount of nutrients could be absorbed, my dear children. And how does more amount of nutrients get absorbed? That is the next question. So basically, the villi that you see over here, they are richly supplied with blood vessels. They are richly supplied with what? Blood vessels and also lymphatic vessels. Lymph vessels. Okay, you have blood vessels, that is something different, and lymph vessels, that is something different. So you have both of them over here. So whatever food, important nutrients are there, that is being taken up by these guys, and then it is passed through to the blood vessel or the lymph vessels as well. So this is how we are absorbing the important nutrients. This is why we are actually having food. Okay, so amino acids and everything, that is small things, big things. Okay, whatever we can, we are taking these things inside. This is why we were having food. So absorption of the nutrients takes place in your small intestine, my dear children, nowhere else. Okay, nowhere else. In the small intestine, it takes place. Works. And I'll tell you one more very important thing. I think I have a diagram over here. Okay, so basically, if you see, this is the villi, this is another villi. In between this, there's a space which is known as intestinal pit. Just like how you were having gastric pit, in between the villi also you have certain pits which contains enzymes that releases the intestinal juice or succus entericus. Okay, basically it releases the intestinal juice that has all the enzymes for the final breakdown of the carbohydrate, proteins and fats. So proteins which were broken down to peptides will be broken down to amino acids now. Okay, carbohydrates to the simpler form, that is glucose now, fats to the fatty acid and glycerol now. Everything's final breakdown happens over here. So enzymes are being released, the food which is there, which is getting finally broken down to small nutrients, and these nutrients are being absorbed by the villi itself. So there are intestinal pit between the villi which does all this thing. Now I want to tell you one more thing, that is the small intestine of the of the herbivores. Okay, herbivores have longer small intestine as they have to digest cellulose. So there is another thing in plants, you know, the cell wall is made up of something that is known as cellulose, which is a hard substance. You have to break it down and you need more time for it. So this substance is getting broken down with the help of enzyme cellulase, which is there in the herbivores, small intestine, things like that. But anyways, it takes time. So small intestine is kind of longer in the case of herbivores, since they have to break things down very efficiently, since they take in food which is very rich in cellulose. Please understand that. Okay, so in the small intestine, the final breakdown of food happened and the absorption of all the important nutrients also took place. Done. Now the large intestine, it has colon, it has rectum, it has anus. What do they do, children? It helps in reabsorption of water. So whatever water is there in this particular content which is being produced over here, from here water is being taken up. Okay, so reabsorption of water takes place in the small intestine. It is not important for absorption of nutrients, nothing. Just reabsorption of water takes place, and then finally the undigested food is excreted outside. It is removed outside, which is known as egestion. It is known as egestion. Okay, and it just outside our body with the help of anal sphincter. So we have a sphincter over here. So in old people and all, this sphincter muscle becomes very weak, which is why they frequently defecate without their knowledge also. So it is all under our not under our control, it's involuntarily controlled, basically controlled by a brain. Okay, so it is kind of partially controlled by us and the brain. So yes, voluntary, involuntary both. So anyways, large intestine is the place where your maximum reabsorption of water takes place, not absorption of nutrients. But over here you have what, children? You have absorption of food and final breakdown of food. Works? I hope this is clear. Okay, now so you have completed nutrition in human beings as well. Going ahead, what do we have? We have one last topic left from this, that is what happens if you do not brush your teeth often. Okay, what happens if you do not brush your teeth often? Now that is important. So in our teeth, if you see the structure, the outermost thing that you see, it is known as enamel. Okay, what do you call this as? Enamel. Inside enamel you have something that is known as dentine. Inside dentine you have pulp cavity, which is rich in the nerves and everything. Okay, so for example, some problem happens over here, it goes inside, that's when it starts paining, because the nerves and everything starts to get affected. So now what happens is that generally, I'll tell you one thing, there's a thing that is being found in yellow color which is known as dental plaque. What do you call it? Dental plaque. Okay, it is actually a mass of bacterial cells and your food particles. So bacterial cells, like we are having the food particles, they are hugging it very tightly and keeping it together, it forms a dental plaque. But there is a problem caused by this. What is that problem? Basically, when the bacteria meets with the food, okay, when the bacteria meets with the food, food has some sugar molecules, anything. So basically, when it acts on it, it releases certain acids. The bacteria releases certain acids, which basically is going to affect your enamel. Okay, so bacteria is there, the food is there, bacteria is feeding on the food and is releasing enzyme. This enzyme is going to act on your enamel, and slowly they are going to make a cavity towards the pulp. You get it? So this is kind of dangerous. So we have to remove the dental plaque, otherwise things could be really bad. So because of this giant wall, that is the plaque that is being formed, what happens is that saliva cannot act on the acid and neutralize it as well. So usually because of this great wall that is being formed by these guys, that is the bacteria and food, what happens, the saliva, which can actually neutralize it with the help of bicarbonate ions, that also would not be able to do its function. Okay, It won't be able to reach the acid and neutralize it as well. So that's all. I was thinking I would be completing respiration in this particular video. Apparently it's already long. I don't want to take it any more longer, so I'm not carrying it forward. I hope you understood this, and please, I showed you certain pictures of some organisms. You have to tell me, okay, you have to tell me whether they show, just a second. Yes, you have to tell me whether they show what, children? Tell me. What was that? What type of nutrition do they show? That was the question. So you have to tell me in the comment section. Okay. Now, one very important thing. If you are someone who is very much confused about what you should be doing after your 10th grade, then here we are for you. Okay, we have DSAT program, my dear children, that is Diksha Scholastic Aptitude Test, which will help you understand what you should be doing after your 10th grade. So there will be a 60-minute concept based lecture, and after that there will be an aptitude test, and after that, depending on your marks, there will be a one-on-one counseling. The person who is sitting right there would be explaining you what could suit you the best. Okay, they will be guiding you really well. So if you are someone who is looking forward to this, you can find the link to this particular thing in our description, so you can click on that and get access to that. I hope it works. Okay, so I should have said it more priorly. I usually put it in between the video, but things happens like that. Yes, I have one homework for you. I think you can do these two homeworks, not one, two homeworks. Okay, organisms who break down the food outside their body are known as what, my dear children? Are what? So you have not are known as what. You have 4 options. Okay, you can answer in A format. Say that, ma'am, homework one's answer is this. So organisms who break down the food outside their body are rhizopus, virus, tapeworm, or cuscuta. Outside their body, who break down the food outside the body is rhizopus, virus, tapeworm, or cuscuta. This is homework 1. Okay. Next homework number 2. Complete the flow chart. Gastric glands present in the wall of the stomach. Secretion is A, B, and C, and their function is this. So you have to tell the secretions and their function. Works? Will you be able to do it? I hope you will be able to do it. Now, once again, I am telling you about DSAT. If you are interested, guys, please move into the link that is given in the description and you will be getting access to it. Yeah, and that's all. If you think that this particular video was useful for you, then definitely do not forget to subscribe to our channel, that is Diksha Vidantu, and you can also put down really nice comments or bad comments if you want, whatever comes to your mind. But I just wish you all the luck, my dear children. I hope this preparation is making you feel really good and you are getting confident more and more. So that's all. Bye bye. Take care.